Hey, I was born in Louisiana, out on the old bayou. I was raised on catfish and jambalaya and mama's good gumbo. But I fell in love with a Texas beauty. I said goodbye to Ma and Pa. When I got to the Texas border, I turned in my saddle and looked into her eyes. This is what I saw. Let me tell you what I saw. I saw miles and miles of Texas, all the stars up in the sky. Look at them. Miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of nothing but Texas. We're sweet Louisiana on the other side. We're sweet Louisiana on the other side. Let me tell you, I rode a rodeo in New Mexico, the meanest bull I ever did see. He did the Watusi about 20 feet in the air, came back down to earth without me. I'll tell you, I've never been thrown so high by a bull in my whole doggone career. Let me tell you, a flock of geese went flying by. I gotta get one. I looked down, the crowd below was going wild, so I tipped my head, I waved and smiled. And on the way down, they heard me cry. When I hit that ground, I'm breaking every bone in my body. But from up here, miles and miles of Texas, all the stars up in the sky. Look at them. Miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of nothing but Texas. We're sweet Louisiana on the other side. We're sweet Louisiana on the other side. I shouldn't tell you this, but I'm gonna tell you. I shot a cowboy in Arizona. True story. I didn't mean to. Tempers flared. Boom. That was that. Look at him laying there. I felt sorry for that young cowpoke, but he should have never made fun of my hat. Well, now, they didn't like my Texas reasoning. They put a posse on my trail. Hell, when I got to the Texas border, I turned in my saddle and yelled, I'm going to Texas. You can all go to... Oh, one more time. Miles and miles of Texas, all the stars up in the sky. Look at them there. Miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and nothing but Texas. We're sweet Louisiana on the other side. We're sweet Louisiana on the other side. That was Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. The chorus. So everything else is something I just sort of did myself. But anyway, let's get started here. Well, I've been at this thing here for a couple of years, and people have been telling me since I started that I need to do this. And for me, it's very hard because I don't like being like a carnival barker. But I'm going to get really serious about this program I'm doing now. Things are going to change somewhat. I'm going to be consistent. I'm putting them out once a week like clockwork. But I need those of you who are listening or whatever, please hit the subscription button hit the like button. This is what's going to help me to go further up the road in this thing. So just do me that favor. Hit the like button and hit the subscription button and try to keep in touch. Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Let's start here. There's a few things. First of all, some things that I was really into, like some time back. I've been talking to some friends of mine and found out how many people don't know anything about this. So even though I've been following this since about 2015 or 16, I'm going to talk about Moses West. Some of you have probably heard it. Moses West and his atmospheric water generation machine. This gentleman, African American retired Army captain, saw in Hawaii someone making water in a similar way. And he came back to America and invented this amazing machine. It's called the atmospheric water generation machine. And what it does is it takes water from the air, and there's water all around us. In fact, there's 3 sources of water: liquid, solid, and gas. And the atmosphere around us is the most abundant source of water that we have. You know, the ocean's there, but this is the most abundant source of water that we have. And he has come up with a machine that takes the water from the air, condenses it, and makes pure drinking water. Now, I think he said that the problem wasn't inventing the machine. For him, the problem would be able to profit off of it, because now, once he invented it, even though he has many patents on it, there's many knockoffs already. People are knocking it off. But listen, this thing is absolutely amazing, because I've been saying for some years now that water is going to be a problem for mankind, and I predicted that in 50 years. Wars will not be fought over oil. It'll be fought over water. We had that here in this country back in the settling of the West, these range wars that were over these water rights. So anyway, this man has done an amazing thing. He took this thing to Flint, Michigan, if you know about the water problem that they had there. And he provided millions of gallons of water for them. And in Puerto Rico, when they had this storm there, the last hurricane, he took his machine there and provided millions of gallons of water for 15,000 people. That is amazing. Water out of the air. And we're never going to run out of it. The scientists even say that we can pull it out, but we're never going to run out of that water. So anyway, so if there are those of you who hadn't heard about Moses West and this machine, go Google it, and go into some of the details. I'm not going to go into many of them here, but my goodness, I've been following this guy for 2016 or something, just really, following him as in his advancements. Now, there's another thing that I was very surprised about too. I mentioned it to certain people, and they didn't know anything about this. It's strange that in this day in America, this is going on in our country. There's a small town in Alabama called Newburn, Alabama. Some of those of you who have heard of this, excuse me, but I know there's a bunch of people who haven't. And I found this really shocking, actually, not at what is going on there, but shocking that it's been going on for so long. In Newburn, Alabama, that's a little small town. Cotton field was once a cotton town, so the population is 15% white. And of course, the workers in the cotton fields were mostly African American. This town is 15% white and 85% African American. But for 60 years, the town has had no elections for their mayors. The mayorship has been passed down from father to son for 60 years. They refuse to have the elections because if they have elections, then the people vote, and you know how that goes. That's democracy, right? Um, and now this is coming out, and there's people are looking at it, and it's being exposed and stuff, so forth. So in 2020 was when I started to really focusing on this. 2020, they finally had an election for the first time in 60 years. The town had an election, and they elected a mayor. And the mayor wasn't a part of the old boy networks, but he was elected by the people. 85% black. And the gentleman who was the mayor before him in this hierarchy of passing it down from father to son, worked with this gentleman who won the mayorship. And I guess they were sort of friends, that they worked together. I'm just assuming that. So the gentleman bought the key over and gave it to the man, and he was surprised because he didn't talk, he didn't say anything. He just bought the key and gave it to him and turned around and walked away. So the next day, when the elected mayor goes down to go into City Hall, the locks have been changed. Now, this happened in 2020, and as of right now, he has never been able to take office. The 15% of the town had a secret meeting, didn't tell anybody else about it. They had a secret meeting and put something on the books that said that people who already are running the city keep their jobs. It's almost funny. This is the United States of America, and this is 2024. And there's a place down there who hasn't had elections in 60 years. They pass them down. Even here's a funny thing. Even the cemeteries are segregated. They showed the cemetery where regular people are buried, and it's nice and blah blah blah. But the majority of the town, the 85% that are black, they have to go way back in the woods. They showed this path that you have to go back to the old slave cemetery from slavery. And that's the only place they are allowed to bury their dead, is in the slave cemetery. Enough of this, because right now people are looking into it. But here's what, when I was watching this thing that they were talking about it, a lady said something that just as she said it, I was thinking the exact same thing. She said, "What I am ashamed of is I'm ashamed of myself," she said, "and ashamed of the others before me. Because we let this go on for all this time. And we didn't try to do anything about it." And they asked her why. And she said, because people were afraid. Because these small percentage of the population here, they have power. I don't care what it is. I mentioned it to a really good friend of mine, and he said, "Oh yeah, I heard about that." And I said, "Well, that's outrageous." He goes, "Oh yeah, but it's just a little town down there in way back out in the country, blah blah blah," sort of dismissively. And I'm thinking to myself, this is America. How do you dismiss something like this that's going on in this country? So anyway, enough of that. I just want to sort of touch on that. How can this be going on now? But it is. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about here is how far we have gone down the tubes politically in this country. Since we know what happened to change the political climate here. But just think about this. When Obama was a president, one of the biggest scandals for a certain side of the aisle was he wore a gray suit to a speech he was giving, or whatever, an official thing. And here's what one side of the aisle, and we don't have to, like I say, we don't have to call out which side is which. You know who they are, okay? One side of the aisle had these things. I'm going to quote some of them. This is on the news stations, in the newspapers. They said it was absolutely outrageous because he wore a tan suit. Hey, he's got swag. He doesn't. But anyway, here's another quote. One of the ugliest suits in the history of America. Another quote. This suit is not presidential. Another quote. I think it was shocking to a lot of people. Greg Gutfield, I guess you know him, the guy from off of the 5 or whatever. He asked, is that an impeachable offense? Read it, okay. Another guy said, another lady, I remember her saying that, I looked twice to see if he wasn't a ringmaster. All that was missing was the top hat. And one gentleman, one of the prominent politicians, said, a serious businessman wears dark or black suits. This is a sign to our enemies that he's a wimp. What? And this is the real one, which always comes up with that side of the aisle. Even though they suck up to the communists as much as they can, him wearing a tan suit, the gentleman said, this confirms it. He's a Marxist. He's a communist. He's a Marxist or whatever. Now, I'm just bringing this up to just illustrate one thing. Look how things have changed. These people were, I remember when he wore that suit, they act like he had thrown scalding hot water in everybody's faces. That it was so horrible. But look at today. They don't get upset with what their candidate does and says, spouting Hitler talk, hatred, racism, bigotry, having lunch with Nazis, and being a part of a party that allows Nazis to show up at their things with all of this stuff. This doesn't upset them at all. But in 2016 or 17 or whenever it was, the president wearing a tan suit was the most horrible thing they could possibly think of. So offended by it. And today, the certain gentleman and his cohorts, Putin and all of those guys, have normalized absolutely outrageous conduct from somebody who used to be a president of the United States. And these people are not bothered by it at all. In fact, they are standing with their red ties and their uniform, their cult thing, and defending everything he says. What happened to the people who were upset because the president wore a suit that wasn't, in their sense, proper for a president to wear? It was going to ruin the country. He's a communist. They think he's a wimp. All of that stuff. Where's all of these people? What happened? Anyway, that's it for me. I'm just going to leave that like this. What happened? What happened? Anyway, listen, this is Alligator in Alignment. We're going to have to vote really soon on our election. And like I said, I don't have to call out any party, what it is, left, right. Just think of my analogy of the art gallery with the two pictures of rallies. I've said this over and over, rallies. And on one side has a picture with an American flag and people holding, uh, you know, signs and upset or whatever about. And the other side is a rally also for the other side, and the American flag, and people that do that. But the other side has Confederate battle flags, Nazi flags, white supremacist flags, all mixed in with the crowd. And when you get ready to vote, where are you? When you get ready to vote, you got to think about it. This is America. This is America, democracy. There are those trying to destroy this democracy, and it's clear where it's coming from if you look at these two parties and what they represent. With that, I'm out of here. God bless each and every one of you. Happy trails. I'm going to put these things out every week now, and I'm going to be more consistent, okay? So, happy trails. I will see you later. This is Alligator in Alignment. Bobby the Bunny's coming back. He's been doing a lot of work.